stories. Every single one of us. From the highest of the high to the lowest of the low, we all have stories. Exploring the world for the greatest stories of all time.
Hello and welcome. You're listening to the Aron O'Dowd Show.
The Aron O'Dowd Show. Our soul is the screen upon which we project our dreams. What's your story?
Hello, and welcome to the Aron O'Dowd Show, that time of the week again where we get to invite, inspire, and motivate to create the legends forged. You're listening to the Aron O'Dowd Show. Make sure you like, subscribe, and smash the comments and the like, because that helps these amazing people get to showcase who they are. You know, we're all about media, how we look on social media, YouTube, all these things from ties to shirts to everything. But what if there was a boss where you could have your own media where he could tell you, hey man, look straight, look right, rock on stage, and that's where you go. And my guest today, Barrett Matthews, is all about rocking the stage in the media world, because we all need to be a boss in our medium. And hello, welcome to the show, Barrett. How are you doing?
I am doing marvelously well and improving. Aaron, how are you?
Fantastic. What fired that inspiration to be the media boss, man?
Well, it's funny you say it like that. I don't consider myself the media boss. I want that moniker is actually for you, for anyone else who wants to use media out there for their business. And what inspired it was the fact that I realized that a lot of people don't use media the way they should for their business. Now, my background is media. I used to work in television, work for CBS, work for different affiliates. And I realized that people were not using media the way it should, because let's face it, today media is much more accessible to us than it used to be. And what I was telling people to do was to control their own media, to create your own podcast, create your own video, just like you're doing, create your own, write your own book. Stop waiting for someone else to call on you. And what I said was that when you can control your media, that's when you become a media boss. So that's what inspired it.
You're in media. What inspired you to be in media, man?
Well, it's funny. When I was in college, I thought, keep in mind, I wanted to be an architect. And
An architect? No way.
Architect, yes, man. I went to college to study architecture at Hampton University. Very, very, very tough architecture program. I lasted a year and a half. And I knew it was time to change my major when I found myself waking up during a physics exam. So I said, okay, it's time to get out of here. I didn't know what to major in, to be honest with you. My sister said to me, well, you've always liked television and radio and stuff. And I'd be honest with you, Aaron, I said, well, doesn't everybody? I didn't see it as a major. I honestly didn't, but I changed my major to mass media arts. My grades shot up. I was having fun. I actually got to sleep at night. And so it was things just started looking up. So I got involved. I started hosting TV shows on campus. I became the radio station sports director. I actually used to call games on the radio with actually some people who are celebrities now. But I had so much fun doing it. And I knew that media was where I wanted to be. And I enjoyed it so much. When I got out of school, I started working in media, and I got internships. I had jobs working with CBS affiliates. Then I went up to CBS Sports, working there as well. Worked for internships with some NBC, ABC affiliates as well, and interviewed with ESPN, BET, all these different companies because of the work that I was able to do. And I just really enjoyed it. I actually had let it go for a while because of the corporate aspect of it. But then I said, but you know what? I can do this on my own. So that's what got me to doing things on my own. Oh, I can't hear you now. I can't hear you. I don't know if you've done something.
I don't know what I did.
There you go. I hear you now.
Okay, cool. What I was going to say is, why sport, man?
Well, I've always loved sports. From the time I was little, I was playing sports as a kid, and I didn't just play the sport, I studied the sport. So I wanted to learn how to. I wasn't always the strongest, wasn't always the fastest, but I knew the game better than a lot of people because I studied it. And I would get books. I would study different plays, different ways that people move, why they did it, and so forth. And Didn't matter if it was football, didn't matter if it was basketball, baseball, boxing, whatever. I just loved the sport, and I love the idea of these people just competing to win. And I love that and what they put in to get there. So when I had a chance to work in that arena, I relished it because it was something that I always loved being around, and it was something that I thought was fun to do, and it was.
So you loved competing, sports. Like, what teams did you support and all that?
Well, being that I grew up in the Washington, D.C. area, so basketball, we were Washington Bullets fans back then, and football back then it was called the Washington Redskins. Now, I am now a Los Angeles Lakers fan in basketball, and mainly because when Magic Johnson got into the league, I just fell in love with the way he played the game. It was so much fun, the way he played the game. And in football, I became a Pittsburgh Steelers fan because I just love the way, the physicality in which they played. Now, my family feels like this when it comes to football. As long as you're not a Dallas Cowboys fan, you're okay. So they don't have a problem with that. Now, baseball, I like the Baltimore Orioles and I like the Washington Nationals. So I want them to both do well. So I usually never root against the DMV teams here, the DC, Maryland, Virginia teams here. I never root against them unless they're playing my team, but I always want them to do well.
Wow. And what did you learn from covering sports?
Oh, man, so much. It was one that it's harder than people think. Like I used to, when I was in college, I wanted to call games on the radio, football games on the radio. And I remember the sports director, the radio station director, she says, I don't think you can do it. And I'm like, why? And she said, because you don't seem like you have that personality, the energy. I said, well, there's not a game going on. So I mean, I was just talking to you. So then what she let me do was go into the booth and call the game, but we didn't do it live. She just let me record it. And she realized that I knew what I was doing. And from that point on, for the next couple of years, I was the play-by-play guy. I actually did play-by-play in color sometimes for the football team. And then they named me the radio station sports director because I was that person at one point. I used to call games. I don't know if your audience watches Entertainment Tonight here in the U.S. Entertainment Tonight is hosted by a guy named Kevin Frazier. Kevin Frazier and I used to call basketball games together, and so it was just something that I knew it was just fun for me to do. But what I learned is that everybody has a story as to how they got to where they are, how they may have fallen from grace, and what makes them compete. And it's fun digging into those stories that, to find out what separates them and what makes them different and what made them go beyond what other people aren't willing to do. And I think that's the thing in life, really, is that, that's the thing that correlates sports and life, is that there's always some doubt in what you can do, but it's those people that push forward beyond that who achieve more.
For sure. You and I are in the business of stories, but when you hear a story, what makes your insides tickle?
It's usually overcoming. It's usually overcoming and winning, because they're different things. I mean, I literally, before we got on today, I heard a guy telling a story about how his mother was born with one lung, and she was told that she would not have kids, and she ended up having 5 kids. He was in a car accident himself, told he may never walk again, and now he's teaching people how to break dance. So, there's things like that overcoming stories like that. Those are the ones that really inspire you and get you going.
For sure. And what's the biggest challenge you faced in your media career?
In my media career, the biggest challenge I faced was actually I had my dream job at CBS, it's CBS Sports. That was my dream job. My mentor, James Brown, got me an interview there, and I got my dream job at CBS Sports because I told people I would be working there for years. And I got it like 2 years out of college. It would happen so fast. And a year into it, not even a year into it, they told me they were letting me go. And they waited till the people who loved me were gone or out of town. And they just let me go. Found out later there were more politics involved to it than I knew at first, but it hurt me at first. It really hurt me at first, but I learned a lot from that, and it helped shape who I am today.
How did it curve and shape you to the man you are today?
Well, it started because of a teacher I had in college. He had an expression for those of us who were going into media. He said, "Look, you haven't worked in television until you've been fired." and Aaron, that stuck with me. It stuck with me. So when they let me go, I remembered that expression. I said, well, I've worked in television now. And I remember when my immediate supervisor came back in town, he was so mad that they let me go. He was very upset. And I kept coming up there to visit him because I was living in New York and I didn't have anywhere to go at the time. So I would go up there to see my friends. And he said, keep coming up here. They're scared of you. They don't know why you keep coming up here. And I was like, they were just my friends. I was just going to see. I didn't know anyone else there. And so it was so funny because it was one of those things that he wanted me to come up there and just keep pissing them off. And I was just coming up there just to see my friends. But it was one of those situations where it hurt me, but I just relied on those words that my teacher said, and I just kept looking because I said, well, I'm young. I got a lot of life ahead of me. I know I can do what I can do, and I just have to look forward and just find the next challenge.
When you hear the word challenge, what runs through your mind?
That's a good question. When I hear the word challenge, I think that someone or something is trying to stop you from getting where you want to go. And it's up to you, up to your intestinal fortitude to determine if you're going to do it, whether you want to take it on, when you're going to do it, how you're going to do it. But basically, if you accept the challenge, then you have to figure out a way to get around it and make it happen.
For sure. We all have to find the who, the what, the where, and the why to get to point A to point B,
Yeah, most definitely.
And in the challenge you faced, do you wish I wish that didn't happen, or this happened, or, when we kind of look backwards and forward, it's like,
there was a time I probably did think like that, but over the years, as I become an old man now, I realized that it's really not my plan, it's God's plan. And whatever God had planned for me, it's not for me to decide whether it was good or bad. I just have to deal with it and work through it. So there are things that happen in my life. I may question, wow, why did that happen? And then I look at where I am now and I'm thinking, now I understand why that happened. Some things had to happen in order for you to get where you are right now. And it's so weird because there are things that I did in my life. I'll give you an example. Years ago, I had an interview for a position, and the person asked me, well, what do you see yourself doing later? And I said, I wanted to move to Atlanta. Now, prior to that statement, Aaron, I had never said I wanted to move to Atlanta before. And 3 years later, I moved to Atlanta. And people used to ask me, what brought you here? And I say, I guess God did, because I have no idea what made me do it. But had I not done that, had I not had the experiences I had there, I can pretty much be sure you and I wouldn't be sitting here talking today, because it wouldn't have led me, because, each decision leads you to another path. And I'm glad it did. And I got to meet some people that helped direct me in different ways. And just because of that, just because of those experiences and those conversations with people, I became who I am now.
Are you a religious man? Because you've mentioned God, that he orchestrates you to where you are in some way.
Not religion, spiritual. Religion, I would say, is man-made. I'm a spiritual person. God didn't mention religion in his words. So just man did that. And I just believe I'm a spiritual person. I do believe in God, and I believe that God does have the ultimate plan for us.
And what is your ultimate plan? Do you know?
Well, my plan is just to make God happy. Because I don't know his plan, and so and if he told it, my brain would probably explode. So I don't know. It's just his plan. So I'm just here to try to follow his word the best I can. I know I'm not perfect; none of us are, but I just try to do that and do what I can to make him happy and to serve people like you and other people out there.
I think you need to grab a microphone and contact him and interview him and see what the plan is.
I don't think I could handle it. My brain could not handle that.
You've interviewed some amazing people throughout your career. Who's the most person that would stand out in your mind?
You mean besides you?
Yeah, besides me, yeah.
Okay. Wow, that's a tough one.
Yeah, it is.
It is. Well, I've interviewed one of the great minds in business, Mr. Myron Golden. I interviewed John Hewitt, who is the founder of Jackson Hewitt, for those of you who know the tax firm. I interviewed someone who I think many of you don't know of, but you will know him. His name is Dr. Clyde Rivers. He was named a king in the region of Ghana. He's a diasporan king, and I do some work with him often, but I've interviewed him. I've interviewed quite a few interesting people, like you said, and it's and to be honest with you, I can't even begin to tell you the list because there's so many of them that I cherish all those interviews because I learned so much from people and I had a lot of fun interviewing a lot of them.
Yeah, I know you always get nuggets and you cherish them, but what impact did they bring to you?
Well, the interview, the biggest impact, I guess, would be with Dr. Clyde Rivers. The day when he told me he was named a king, he also told me that he wanted me to be one of his royal advisors. So that was a big impact because one of the things that I had prayed for in my life, I prayed that God would put me in position to make an impact in the world. And then this happens. And I'm like, well, that's it. And I remember someone asking me, I said, well, are you going to accept it? Are you going to accept the role? I said, I have to. I prayed for this. This is literally what I asked for. And now it's here. So yeah, that was probably the biggest impact.
So you know a king then, is that correct?
I know a king. I'm talking to him in a couple of days.
Wow, that's pretty powerful to know a king,
Yeah, and it's more powerful to work with him because he's a brilliant mind, and I'm honored to have that position to work with him and to advise him as well.
I wonder what it's like to be in your head to be hanging around with brilliant minds at the same time,
I'm hanging around with one right now.
I know. It just shows that brilliance equals brilliance,
There you go. We attract each other. That's what it is, man. It's the bald head. It's the bald head. That's what it is.
I think there should be a bald club online where all the baldies can come together.
There probably is. I'm sure there is. I'm sure there's several of
them. What's your relationship with the microphone?
What's my relationship with the microphone? Well, I've used the microphone for several different things. It's funny you said it like that. I realized that a lot of people are afraid of microphones. A lot of people do not want to speak in public, do not want to speak on camera, do not want to speak on radio, do not want to speak on podcasts. They are afraid of it. I have been speaking from the time I could stand up and speak. My mother would put me in church and put me in school performances. So I had no problem speaking in public. When I got into the media, well, and I said this actually when I was in church, because I used to have to be in front of a microphone then. And it became second nature. It was no big deal. It was just something I was holding while I was talking. It didn't really mean a big deal to me. Then when I got in the school, in the media, microphones for television, microphones for radio and so forth, it was just no big deal to me. But as I got to do more, especially radio, and I brought on other speakers to interview, I realized that a lot of them did not know the differences in speaking here, like on a podcast, or speaking on a panel versus speaking on stage versus speaking on a radio show, because there are differences, as you know. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people didn't realize that how to do that. We had people who were like stage speakers who would speak all over the world, and we would put them on a radio show. and they didn't know how to fill their time because they're used to feeding off of an audience in front of them. So they didn't know how to make that microphone work with them and make the audience their friend. That's something I realized that everybody, the things I took for granted, everybody doesn't know. And I remember doing a seminar on that because I was teaching people there are different ways that you have to speak. For instance, like as I talk to you right now, I can look into the camera and talk to you.
Mm-hmm.
When I'm on a TV show or something, and we're sitting next to each other, I can't look into the camera and talk. I have to look at you, so, so stuff like that people don't realize that's happening. And these are things that I realize that a lot of people take for granted and they don't realize. So the microphone in me, I'm very comfortable with the microphone. I had no problem with it whatsoever.
The reason I ask is because in my head, a microphone's in a dark room, in your underpants recording, or something like that, or a cigar or something mystical about a microphone,
In your underwear. Interesting visual, Aaron.
It's just like, like no one can see you, you're on the mic, you're not in camera, it's just like perfect face, and your voice just illuminates the room,
Yeah, I believe me, I get it, because I have a face for radio, so I understand it, that there are a lot of times you don't want to be seen. And I tell people, because of the era we're in right now where video is king, because I have a lot of people who ask me, well, because I produce media for people, and they say, well, I don't like being on camera. And I tell them, I said, you know what? Get over it. Let's get over it. Because whatever it is that's holding you back from getting on video, it's only between that camera and you. The world does not care. So just get on camera and do it. Because, and the reason is because this,
mm-hmm.
If the audience that listens to a podcast is usually not the same audience that watches the podcast, and vice versa. So you can capture different audiences by putting video and audio out there, but you have to get out of your underwear, at least from the top down. But you can you can do that.
The one thing I found was, during 2020, everyone's like, I'm shirt up and pajamas at the bottom. It was just like a strange experience.
Yes, and people were embracing that. They loved doing it. Yes. Some people would actually stand up, and that was not good.
The hippie aspect came into broadcasting during those times.
Oh, didn't it? Or the fact that you just forgot that you were on camera.
For sure. Would you change your career anyway? Are you happy and you love what you do?
I love what I do. The only thing I would change, I guess, is to get started working on my own sooner and meet the right people sooner, right? Because I think that I could be a lot further and help more people had I started earlier. It's not so much about me. It's just I could have made a bigger impact had I started working on my own sooner.
Break that down further. What do you mean?
Well, I was in that corporate mindset because that's what I was trained to do. I was trained to get a job, work for someone else. And I wasn't trained to be an entrepreneur. So had I done that sooner and gone into entrepreneurship sooner, I think I could have helped more people as far as with their media. I think I could have reached more people and helped them to see more of what's out there for them.
Was it hard to transition from the job to the entrepreneur?
No, it wasn't actually. Getting fired will do that to you. So, because actually what happened was when I got fired, I got out of media pretty much like a year later. I took a job, like a part-time job working at a cable TV station in production. And then after that, I got into network marketing. And network marketing was a big impact on me because it allowed me to see that my income, my career is based on what I do. Nobody's going to fire me. It's just, if you're going to work, we're going to pay you. And I said, I can get with that. So, because I knew I was going to work. And so, it just changed my mindset. And it opened me up to not being an employee. And once that happened, I started seeing, hey, I can do this, I can do that. And that entrepreneur bug was in me then. So that's what happened. And it changed the way I see things. But it all started with me getting fired.
I guess your mindset was already there. I'm going to get fired, so let me go do something else, right?
Yeah, because I didn't want that to happen again. I don't know who does, but I didn't want that to happen again.
Listening to your voice, it sounds like your voice is pruned for radio, but I probably presume not. Is that correct?
I mean, I'm very comfortable with radio. I'm very comfortable with television. I prefer behind the scenes. I prefer the production, and I've heard that before. People said about my voice. I enjoy speaking. Don't get me wrong. I do like speaking, but I love watching things come together. It's so much fun to just watch it come from nothing to a production. I really enjoy that.
So you enjoy the old Lego land of production.
There you go, the old Lego land. If that's why you want to say it, yes, Aaron, that's what I enjoy.
Wow. Like we see movies, we see programs, or anything like that looks amazing. But when you're under the hood and you're looking at everything, it's a whole different kettle of fish, And in spending years doing that, you probably can do that in your sleep. So staring at the ceiling, it's like reels and cut tape and cameras and microphones and thinking, what the next question will be,
Well, it's funny because I used to do a blog talk radio show. I did a couple of them actually. And when I stopped doing it, a friend of mine who had just started a big organization online, he contacted me and said, hey, I'm going to start an online radio show. And he said, I'm having one of those morning shows. And he said, I want you to be one of the hosts in the morning. He said, would you like to do it? He told me he was going to be there. And I'm like, yeah, I'd love to work with those people. So cool. Well, little did I know, Aaron, that he was setting me up because I ended up being the main host. I ended up being, that's not it. I ended up being the director. I ended up being the producer. And then I ended up being the executive producer. So pretty much I was running the whole show. And he wasn't even on the show after a while. And he told me, he said, yeah, that was my original plan because I knew you were the only one that had real media experience. And I'm like, God, you could have just told me that up front. I mean, but what's interesting was that there were times, because I was running the controls, I was hosting at the same time, I was doing it all at the same time. We had other hosts and guests and so forth, but I was still running stuff behind the scenes as well. And when there were times where I had to go away, go on vacation, whatever, and someone else had to take over. And they were like, oh my God, Barrett, I don't know how you did that. I don't know how you do that every day. And it was one of those situations where, to me, kind of to your point, it was easy. It was simple for me because I knew in my mind what I wanted to happen and I knew how to make it happen. And even if it's something I don't know how I want it to happen, I know to go to the people who can make it happen. But I know my mind as a producer is to know what I want to see or what I want to hear and tell someone who can do it, okay, this is what we want to get done. And let them do their magic.
What is the legacy you want to leave behind, Barrett?
Ooh, excellent question. Well, I think you already got that, but I want to. I want to be known as someone who helped people, who made an impact in lives of people, who helped bring about love, peace, and the Word of God. And I just really want to do that. That's the legacy. It's not so much, material things. It's not so much, just, people just being happy to say, oh, Barrett was fun and stuff like that. I want to make an impact, leave a footprint on earth. I mean, as we're talking today, I just found out this morning that a dear friend of mine passed away. But one thing about him that I know is that he left his family in a position where they can do a lot of great things. He changed a lot of other people's lives in business to where they're actually making a lot of money, changing lives for their family and doing things because of what he taught them. And it just makes me feel good to know that he did that. He left a footprint. And that's the one thing I want to make sure that I do as well.
peace seems to be a big part in your life. How are you going to emulate the world through, collaboration, connection to create some sort of peace in what you love doing?
Well, good question. One of the people, as I mentioned, I'm working with Dr. Rivers. He has an organization that we work with called I Change Nations. And I am actually an ambassador with that as well. So what we're doing is we're working with people around the world to bring about civility and helping people just to be civil towards one another, because there's a lot of unrest in this world, as we know. And the thing is, it can all be solved by just being civil towards one another. We don't have to agree, but we can be civil. We don't have to want the same things, see the same things, but just be civil towards one another, and it can change a whole lot of things in this world, whether it be from government to business to sports. Even it can just if we're treating each other in a civil manner, it can change a lot of things. So one of the things that I'm doing is I'm working with him to help bring that about, and we're working on a lot of things to bring about civility in this world. So I'm excited to be an ambassador with I Change Nations as well. And I'm excited to work with you as we work with 90210 Enterprise to do some things as well. So,
if you had one piece of advice for anyone, what would it be?
Well, one piece of advice. Wow, that's a good one. Don't stress about stuff. Someone told me a long time ago that adversity is inevitable, but stress is optional. Choose not to stress about things. I hear people talking about, I'm stressing. Don't stress. You have that choice as to whether you're going to stress over it or not. Does it hit you? Yes. Things are going to hit you. Things are going to hit you hard. Make your recovery time a lot quicker and not stress about it, because that old expression, like, if you can change it, change it. If you can't change it, there's no need in you worrying about it, because you can't change it. So I would say just don't stress about things, because God knows you'll live a lot longer, and you'll find happiness a lot easier if you choose not to stress over things.
Barrett, where can people find you to get to explore and understand and be part of your journey in some way?
Sure. They can go to my website at mediabosspro.com. They can also check me out on LinkedIn. I'm there as well. And I love to talk to someone about how we can help make them into a media boss and turn them into an industry icon.
Man, it's been a blast. When you're on the air or on time flies, and geez, that time again. I want to say thank you so much. It's been a blast.
Thank you, my friend. I appreciate you, brother.
There you go. You have the choice to inspire, the choice to collaborate, the choice of everything. And remember, you are the media boss of who you are. So stay tuned to next week. We have another incredible guest. And if you love it, make sure to click like, subscribe, and comment and tell us what you thought of the media boss, Barrett Matthews. And remember, stay tuned to next Tuesday at 4 p.m. UK time, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And remember, rock on, because you're amazing.
Thank you for listening to the Aron O'Dowd Show, where the world's best stories are told. If you like, please post a review or subscribe to the show. To find out more, contact us at aronodowd.com. That's ARONODOWD.com. We're always ready to share another magnificent tale from the world's best storytellers. So stay tuned.